Following Ossipee Planning Board, August 17th, 2018, to honor for a joint meeting with the CBA. So please rise to the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Planning Board roll call. Steve McConaty.
Yeah.
Rick St. James.
Yep.
Martha Eldridge.
Here.
Tim Otterbach will be absent tonight. Peter Zavas, not sure at the moment. Dennis Legendre.
Here.
Roy Barron.
Yep.
Condict Billings. ZBA agenda. Danny Fishbein.
Here.
Ralph Worcester.
Here.
Roy Barron.
Here.
Ed McDonald.
Here.
Jim Rhines.
Here.
Stanley Brothers absent. Sam Martin absent.
Ralph, you have the floor.
It seems to me that before we ask Ash to make his presentation, we need to first of all say that there's only 4 members of the zoning board here tonight. And obviously you have a right to a 5-member board. If you make a decision to go ahead, having only a 4-member board is not an excuse for an appeal. So your acceptance to that means we can go forward. If you wish to wait for a 5-member board, that's your right, and we can continue to that until that point happens. So that's your decision you need to make first of all.
A couple questions there. Is Stanley the one you're not counting?
Stanley's not here, and one of our alternates is not here, and I can't raise your father up because there'd be a conflict of interest.
And Stanley was going to recuse himself
That's
anyways.
Anyway,
correct, yeah.
that's
why I
correct.
was asking.
Yep.
Okay. I would like to proceed. Wouldn't you? Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Let me start off by giving you the floor and allowing you to make your presentation. What we'll do then is open it up for any public comments. Also, obviously, any questions as you go along by either the planning board or the ZBA will be entertained. We'll then close that part of the session to have, it seems to me, a private conversation between planning board and the ZBA about what you have said and your presentation. At that point, we then close it, I think, for just the zoning board for the variance part. What I'm asking you to present at first is that 5 criteria for the variance that you're seeking. Your site plan review, seems to me, comes up later, and the planning board can take care of that at that time. So right now, what we're looking for is your presentation on why you think a variance is authorized, the 5 criteria supporting your position, and then we will open it up for questions and public comment, close it to planning board, zoning board, and then eventually just zoning board so we can make a decision. Is that okay with you, Scott? Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you tonight for having this meeting and allowing us to come in and give the presentation. So this has certainly been a hot topic for a time, but ultimately what we're trying to do is, while we had a denial letter for, yes.
Announce who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ash Fishbein, Ossipee resident, representing Jake Dawson and his father. We're talking about the property at 80 Route 16B. That wasn't me. All right, maybe it was.
Hey, sure, Joe.
My apologies. So what Jake's looking to do is pretty much subdivide his building that he has down there. It's an old pallet manufacturing company. There have been several businesses through there. There was a storage unit. There was a proposed plan in the past for storage units out back. Obviously, that part of the building had fallen into weather and disrepair. That's since been long gone. Ultimately, Jake purchased the property a year and a half ago, and his intention was a good one. And what he's looking to do is reopen the laundromat, subdivide a couple parts of the building into one being a rental unit for a landscape company. What we applied for the building permit to do so that it ultimately got denied was denied because warehousing and storage isn't allowed in the village district. And while that may be true, the reason we're here for a variance is we're looking to have an actual business there. It's not necessarily a storage and warehouse place where nothing will take place, but an operating business with an office, a restroom, and I mean, ultimately, whenever you have a business, you're storing something one way, shape, or form, respective to the business that you're operating. So ultimately, it's really that simple. We're looking to partition off that part of the building. By doing so, it'll allow firewall between the laundromat and that area. The area that we're discussing, I'm sure you have your map. This is really small, but what we're looking at, it's this back southeast corner of the building, roughly 20 by 40-ish. And to operate out there, there's plenty of parking, there's plenty of space to do that. Ultimately, he wants to improve that property. The property has been an eyesore for quite some time, so I don't believe that it would be contradictory to the neighborhood. We'd be bettering, or Jake would be bettering that off that location. The switch through here. Ultimately, he wants to rent that space out to that business. You know, I think there's a lot of focus on what's being stored there. We're not looking for storage. We're looking to just put a business in there. Ultimately, it's a really, I think, pretty short and sweet as to what we're looking for. On that part, are there any questions?
Just one. There's going to be no warehouse and storage, or is it a warehouse and storage?
It would be what you would typically warehouse and store if you were to run a business inside four walls.
But
So,
no, it's for the businesses only.
yes,
Thank you.
yes. Yes, sir.
Ash, you used the terms, you wanted to subdivide it. You're not trying
I'm
to
not.
condominiumize this.
No, not
This
at
is
all.
going to be under one ownership and
Yep,
it's going to be leased space.
that's correct. So can I go into the 5 points?
I
Yes.
have a question. I'm having difficulty believing anything that might be said here tonight, and I'll tell you why. Mr. Dawson came before the planning board, and he asked if he could do a little work to the machines down there to get them ready. He might want to open a business. And he asked the chairman that night if he could go ahead and use one stall to work on his own equipment. And he was asked, what are we talking about here? And he said 1 or 2 trucks. If I believe you, you can look through the notes. Now you come here tonight and you're asking for a variance. He's already rented property there, but he was told he couldn't do that. He was told to come back with a site plan review if he wanted to do anything else other than fix those machines and work on his vehicle. Now, I'm having a truck and laundromat, right?
right now I'm having difficulty. I hear no apology for that. You lied to this town.
You're absolutely right.
Not me, not this board, but you lied to the public of this town when you lied to us.
I did. I absolutely have made mistakes. I am very new to this. I made some very rash decisions that have got me into this situation. I absolutely owe everybody in this town an apology.
And I think you owe a zoning officer one because
Absolutely.
you treated him badly too.
Yes, Steve and I definitely had some rough roads. My frustrations definitely get the best of me with Steve, for sure. I think Steve knows that I feel differently today than I did, a few weeks ago. I'm doing my best. I honestly, this is outside my wheelhouse. I am not used to standing in front of boards. This is not something that I do. I am absolutely making mistakes. And that's why I've gone to people that I feel as though know a lot more about this than I do. I dig holes for a living. I play with dirt. And I don't know the process. One of the things I've brought to Ash's attention through the Ossipee Economic Development Council is that there is no roadmap for this. They didn't teach this in high school. They didn't teach it in college, how to go through a planning board, and how to make the right decisions. I mean, and I've made mistakes. I've absolutely made mistakes, and I'm very sorry for all of my mistakes. But ultimately, I just want to open a business in this town that I can make some money at. I've got a huge investment with my dad down the street, and I'm grateful that I get to work with my dad every day. But I'm embarrassed. I've made mistakes in front of my dad, and I'm embarrassed. And I apologize to everybody in this town. I'm truly sorry.
It's appreciated. Thank you.
So, just to talk on that, if the board doesn't mind, and you obviously heard from Jake, I was at all of those meetings. I was there that night, and the moment I found out that there was a rental there, I was on the horn with him immediately. I wear pride for this town on my sleeve, and I really just wanted to help him out because ultimately we need more businesses here. So I'm here to represent him, to kind of guide him through, and I'm sure I've made plenty of mistakes on this application to both boards. But we're here tonight to set the level right and move forward. So, anyone else? So moving on to the variance and a little backstory, at the last meeting, I was unaware that I had put the incorrect ordinance number down on the application. Again, we're all human here, I made mistakes. We corrected that to what was on Steve's denial letter. So a lot of these 5 points were based originally on just specifically that landscape company. As I'm talking about tonight, it's really about business. It's not about warehouse and storage. The variance, number one, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the variance will not be contrary to public interest because this is a pre-existing building that was once used for manufacturing. There will be very limited noise and no byproduct produced. The variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. Further, the variance would not unduly, with a marked degree, conflict with the ordinance such that it violates the basic zoning objectives of the town of Ossipee. Can I speak on it, or do I have to go right down to number 2?
Speak to it, and any of the zoning board members who would like to ask you questions are fairly free to do so.
Okay. Ultimately, that building needs a new facade, and I think improving that building would help generally to the public interest and better the essential character of the neighborhood. Any questions on? Yes, sir.
Have you spoken with any of the neighbors in terms of, with a landscaping business or your business, slamming tailgates at 6 o'clock in the morning, or sometimes more offensive to a residential neighborhood, which is where this is located?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if there's been any conversation with your abutters.
I've talked to Brian Lord, who obviously has sirens that go off at all night times when the ambulances are going in and out. He has had no issues, I think.
No,
my dad's
he
up
offered
front.
help in any way he could, offered free labor, anything. He opened his garage to us if we needed tools. He was totally supportive.
I haven't spoke with the other neighbors. I haven't heard a single word.
They were issued letters, I believe, anyway.
Correct. My tailgates don't typically slam in the morning. They slam at Ossipee Ag or down at Dow Sand and Gravel at Green Oaks now, I guess. We don't typically have a body up in the morning.
I didn't know about the landscape company, because this is more towards your tenant, that I've just,
You know, Brett's a pretty quiet neighbor. I haven't heard it, and I haven't heard any complaints from the neighbor. I'm there, you know, sometimes trying to put together my paperwork in the truck, you know, early in the morning. And I've never heard Brett, so.
Rod, quick question for Steve. Wouldn't that come into the town ordinance anyway, the noise? Our rules and regulations, any noise before or after 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock, 7.
Yeah, so if it was offensive, it would be up to the zone, I mean, you to take care of it, right?
7 to 7, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
obviously. That would cover that, in my opinion, anyways.
Back to the landscaping, do we have any idea of how many trucks they're running, they're in and out, that kind of stuff that would in fact impact the neighborhood?
Subject to check, I think Brett has 3 or 4 trucks. Somewhere in that range. It may be 4 or 5, I haven't counted. Typically, his routine, from what I've gathered, is, you know, they get loaded up, you know, they get to the shop about 7 o'clock, 7:05, they get loaded up and they're gone for the day. And then they come back, typically, I think it was 4 or 5, maybe 5:30 at the latest. They unload their equipment, you know, and go home.
This may be impertinent and irrelevant because we're dealing, as I think Jim mentioned, with the building permit and a variance for the structure. But when I went and reviewed your property and drove back, there are 7, 8, 9 snow plows, there are other things. Back there, is the landscape going to also store things back there?
Yeah, those plows are Brett's.
Okay.
And you would, you know, try to put his, you know, winter equipment there, and
Okay.
summer equipment as well.
Question. Not all landscapers do the same type of work. but
Sure.
Some use a lot of different chemicals, not a lot of them. I guess we have to be a little concerned where it is in a village district. Going to be any storage of any amount of chemical other than just gas and oil?
No, and that's actually a stipulation in his rental agreement, that he can't store, you know, chemicals. And, I mean, there would be MSDF sheets, you know, if he ever did do something like that, and I'm sure, you know, I could work with him. I'm actually licensed from the state of New Hampshire to do best management practices for hazardous materials. I think I'm one of like 7 that actually went to the class. I needed some continuing education for my water operator's license. I thought that would be the least boring class. So I know how to do that. The state has trained me to, you know, to look for stuff, look for containment, look for, you know, spill repair, and, you know, to make sure that containers are correct. So I am aware of that stuff, and I think that's a great point, because I would not let, you know, somebody that does, you know, plant fertilizing into that building, because I do care about Ossipee too.
Yeah.
I think, Ralph, we're also missing the point. This is a water resource district too, along with a village district.
I'm gonna let Jake talk on that. He's
So-
an expert in that.
I call it the state of New Hampshire, so I'm pretty familiar with the wellhead protection program. I used to do a lot of them.
It's not wells.
I understand, it's the watershed area, which is monitored by Green Mountain Watershed. It's 397 square miles is that watershed. So I mean, that's all the way from one end to 16 quarter, all the way up to the other. So we're all in the watershed.
Right.
You know, every single one of us are.
But
So
you also, being in the water district, all under that category too, of what you can do and what you can't do. Right. I mean, Jake, I want to see you stay there,
me too.
but, you know, Ash says that it's just a warehouse, not storage.
I'm not saying it's a warehouse at all, I'm saying it's a business.
Yeah.
And that business is
With an
storing
office.
what
What?
it needs to run, to operate.
Then you shouldn't have come in under this variance. I mean, under this ordinance,
There-
if it's gonna be a business.
That was directed by our code enforcement officer trying to talk about this, and that was directed by him solely.
Two businesses within one building is permissible. We're getting off the subject of, is it a business? You asked for variance for a warehouse and storage.
Only because I was told to do that by our code enforcement officer. He said there was no other way that that landscape company could operate in that building.
Could you explain that to us, Steve?
I don't remember the conversation, but I do remember having a conversation with the landscape company out back. Until this was straightened out with the ZBA, you cannot operate the business. I remember that conversation.
And soon after that said, what do we need to do to get this business in here? And when I applied for having a business in that location, and that was switched to warehouse and storage. I didn't, honestly, we weren't asking for that.
The letter that I gave you, what did that,
For the building permit?
the denial?
Yeah,
Denial was for warehouse storage.
for warehouse.
Warehouse
That's right.
storage, and that was it at the time.
No, the talk was to put a business in there. I have it right here.
It was denied for warehouse storage, had nothing, I would have said business in there, but it was just warehouse storage at the time.
No, that.
And we had the fire marshal come in,
that-
and we needed firewalls in there, that's how it started.
But I wasn't there for that. This was soon after, when we were literally talking about the landscape company and a business operating out of that, which to me is one and the same, no matter how you slice it. And I asked you specifically, what do we need to do to allow this business to operate here? And you said you need to fill out a building permit application where you need to go for a
That's right,
variance.
and it'd be a denial. I do have the building permit application, if you gave me one, you got the denial letter. I don't see anything as far as the business. I know storage, and that's why it was denied.
But a landscape company is a business. I
What
didn't
was applied-
ask for it.
What was applied for and what I denied was storage.
Okay,
I'm
so,
pretty sure that's what you're gonna find.
so I guess my question then, before we go any further, is having two businesses allowed in that single building, if it is permissible by the town ordinance, do we need to continue this variance?
It's a good question.
If he's storing just the equipment that has to do with the business, that's his business, not warehouse and storage, right? He's not selling anything out of the building as far as his business goes, with warehouse and storage, would be my opinion.
Separation of firewall.
But my understanding is what Steve is saying is that when it was presented to him, all they were going to do there was store equipment.
That's what I understood to begin with myself.
But what Ash is saying is they're going to have an office in there, and they're actually, the business is going to be there. And so the equipment that they're storing is simply for their business. That's to me, that's apple and oranges, that's totally different. And I have to ask Steve, am I right about that?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's,
So
that's why, I mean, when you put down storage, I was looking at it saying, you've got chips, loam, and fill storage.
we did have a conversation a while ago. You were talking about some storage buildings that used to exist out back or something.
I had only come in informally to discuss whether the planning board would allow a site plan review that had been in their file. And the
Yeah.
feeling I got from this board was because it didn't have signatures, because it was done in the 90s, whatever it was, I should start from scratch. So we submitted a brand new full site plan.
Well,
I understand that, but my
Yeah.
question was, didn't we talk about, there used to be some storage, or you talked about maybe putting storage out back at one point?
There were storage units out back before half the building came down. Inside, where Jake's truck would be in the northeast and the southeast corner where this business would operate, that was one bay that was tire storage for Northern Tire.
Yeah. But you weren't asking for storage.
I was not.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get clear in my head, thank you.
Yeah.
So
Do you
according,
even need a variance?
according to Article 4, Section 4.4, says that in the village, residential and rural districts, there shall not be more than one principal structure allowed per lot. In the village district, both commercial and residential uses may be combined in the same structure. An accessory structure may be permitted on the premises so long as it is not adapted for use or occupancy as a dwelling or for any use inconsistent with that of the principal building on the premises. And then there was an amendment that said an accessory structure may be permitted on the premises consistent with the use of the principal structure, and an accessory structure intended for the use or occupancy of as a dwelling must comply with the regulations. So if you're only allowed, if you're allowed up to 2 uses, you're gonna have the laundromat, gonna have the storage building, gonna have your business. So it sounds like what you need a variance for is the number of businesses operating on the property. And I know when I prepared to come to the last zoning board meeting before this, the joint board was called, there was repair going on in the back corner that on your plan says owner space. I don't know, if that was owner doing repair or what that was. but-
Yeah.
So if there's more than 2 uses, then, and it's gonna be businesses, then it needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be a variance from the number of businesses used, and not storage if that's what they're gonna be.
Very quickly, the landscaping company is going to operate their business out of there and have an office.
Correct.
The laundromat will be operating there, and there might be some staff.
Correct.
Are you going to have an office and staff and everything else for your business there?
There is the possibility in the future, there is offices down the center that I could use. I don't have intentions on putting the office in right now, or I don't have intentions. That could happen, yes. So I guess the answer is yes, it could happen.
Possible.
It's possible. But my office would literally, it wouldn't be a storefront. My office is, we do bids and proposals. I don't have walk-in traffic for an excavation company, luckily. So my business would basically be one office in the building where my secretary or myself would be preparing documents or collecting the mail. It wouldn't be like a storefront. I don't want people to think I'm gonna have like an office with a sign and people are gonna start, rolling in there.
And the storage facility, is that for your use, or are you going to be renting that out?
This storage word keeps getting messed up. My bay is essentially my business. It's storage of equipment that I'm not using during that day. I may use it the next day. I may pull a truck in, and I discussed this with Connie on the very first meeting. I may pull my truck in during the winter months or change the oil in my truck. I am not going to provide a service to anybody other than my own business in that bay. So yes, I may pull a bucket to my excavator in and change the teeth on it or something along those lines. I'm not going to be doing motor overhaul because, like I said at the beginning, I dig dirt. I don't change motors.
Yeah.
If that's going to McDevitt's, and they take care of that stuff.
So for the scope of the site plan review, it's 2 businesses.
Correct. Dawson's Excavation would be a business, and then the other bay that I've basically mirrored of mine with slight modifications would be another business. And then a laundromat.
So it's 3.
Correct. So there's 3 businesses that could potentially be.
Or the commercial,
The commercial would actually be
What part of that?
part of the laundromat. It would be an extension of the laundromat. So it would be the same.
as long as you designate that now.
Okay. Which we did in the site plan. That would be an extension. That's hopes and dreams down the road, and perhaps my son's recommendation.
Well, when we get to the site plan, we'll talk about it.
So,
Yeah, I don't know where we're at.
to me, it seems like we need a different notification, and I mean, I hate to drag this out. I just don't know from a notification standpoint and appropriate procedure, if it's gonna be for more than 2 uses on a single lot, then I think that it needs to be, a variance needs to be noticed to the public for that. And and it can be done in a separate meeting, it doesn't have to be a joint meeting, but I know that it, from a notice standpoint, if you notify for a special exception and you need a variance, you definitely need to renotice. We've noticed, you know, I think there's an opportunity for someone to appeal any decision we make if we've noticed for storage and then we grant a variance for multiple uses. It opens the town and the applicant up to a potential appeal that would be easily won, in my opinion. So if, you know, that's my 2 cents.
Any other consensus?
Other than the fact I agree with him.
I mean,
It's more in line with what you're doing, right?
warehouse,
It's more in line with what they're gonna do there. And it's better to get it right.
I'm trying.
I'm
trying.
It takes another
I mean,
couple of weeks.
Ralph, you have to deny the variance that they're seeking now,
They could withdraw.
or they can withdraw
They
it.
can withdraw.
Either way.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
Okay, but then the next step is
The
that
next step
he has
would
to go
be-
back and
he has to
re-request a
make a-
building permit.
Yeah, and given the fact, you know, I don't know what the zoning board feels about, you know, waiving a second application fee and notifications if we've been somehow culpable and if they've applied for a business and it turned out to be directed to storage and that's not what they wanted, I'll leave that up to
What should
the
have to
majority
pay
of the board.
Just a very quick question. Since traditionally there have been multiple businesses operating out of that facility, 2 at least that we can think of to recent dates, do they need a variance for the second business still?
They're talking
He's talking 4 different businesses.
Correct, but currently, right now, the landscaping company can go ahead and operate and they can go apply for building permit for that, and then he can come back for a variance for
Third business.
the third business. There's no reason to,
Yeah, but you already got, Dawson is working already. He wants to open a laundromat.
so,
And Brent's already in there. So he would have to come back,
yeah,
or
just himself.
a variance for either himself as the third business or the laundromat as the third business.
No,
I mean, my understanding.
well, laundromat and Brett would be all set, and then he would have to come back for the third business being himself as a variance, that's it.
No, because the laundromat's not open.
There was a laundromat before, I thought we already had
Correct.
agreed that it was all set.
Well, I mean, however you wanna say what business is there now and what he has to get a variance for.
Well, unless he gave up the rights to laundromat, he can't do that because the time hasn't run out in the laundromat.
And not only that, Jake has a tremendous amount of money invested in that with new equipment coming this week.
I mean, we're not trying to discourage business. I understand Jake has made his mistakes. He's admitted it. Whether this was a mistake on Steve's part, but the variance that you're seeking has no relevance, as you have said yourself.
Only by discovery tonight.
Yes, Steve.
The conversation I've had with the Dawsons was the laundromat can open up when there's a firewall installed. You can leave the lawn care equipment inside there, not as a business, just leave it in there for storage. And that was it until this was settled with the ZBA, and that was understood.
My quick question, they still need a building permit to modify the area where the lawn.
So the firewalls and the laundromat,
Right.
and they have all that, and they're doing a great job.
Okay,
That's fine.
they have it already done, or
They have a
they've?
permit, and they're working on finishing the work.
I believe the wall was completed this morning.
Yep, today.
I gotta double check, I haven't been over there. I believe the wall was completed today. We'll have Steve and Dana obviously come down and look at it. The fire alarm system, which was the other hurdle, is installed, and functioning.
Yep.
And that Dana has come down and inspected that, so.
I don't understand.
The firewall was put in.
Where is the firewall?
I can show you.
Separating the landscape from the
landscape
laundry.
Okay, so it's like down the center.
They were storing fuel, and we're not gonna let them open the laundromat, having fuel in the building, so that's why we say put a firewall up before the laundromat opens. The laundry care, or the lawn care business cannot open, you can store stuff. Until it goes to the ZBA.
Do they need to do some modifications of the landscape area before they can open up?
It hasn't been inspected. They've done a lot of work.
Because what I'm going back to, my understanding is they requested a building permit that would have to do with the lawn care area.
With the laundromat itself, but you had to isolate
I see.
the fuel that was in the lawnmowers and in that area.
Okay.
Before that building could
More
open.
confused.
So Ralph, what we've done now is we've essentially segregated each business from itself with.
I understand that,
Okay.
but you're doing something that you were denied the right to do. If Steve denied you a building permit, then nothing should have happened, correct?
Denial, I gave him the permission to open up the laundromat.
Okay.
The denial came from, he wanted to open up the storage for the lawn care. And I said, no.
Okay.
The equipment was already in there. I said, you need a firewall to protect the rest of the building, including the laundromat. And then you can open the laundromat. This will not open up until it goes in front of the ZBA.
So we come back to Jim's point, that it's not really a variance for storage, it's a variance for the number of businesses in the building.
Right. That's what I'm hearing. It sounds like.
So, my question to that would be, at the last meeting, where I inputted into that application the wrong numbers, based on, an ordinance, I filled in the correct ones and signed it that night. And here we are today. Is that something, I know you were just talking on a liability to the town and things like that. But even back then, we'd have this same conversation. I feel like it's a little bit the same.
But I think, I can't speak for let Mr. Rhymes speak.
Yeah, no, because what happened, Ash, was the notice was for storage. So it was noticed correctly.
Okay.
The notice matched the denial.
Gotcha.
It's just that your application didn't match the denial and the notice.
Okay.
So the difference is here is it doesn't sound like you need this or want this. You want to have 3 and maybe someday 4 other businesses in there or on that property. So you need a variance from the number of uses on the property. And that's what I'm saying is, if I'm in a butter and I get my notice and it says, oh, they're gonna have storage next door, that's quiet, that's, items don't make noise. But then all of a sudden now I'm gonna operate a business. If this board were to act on that and grant an approval, I think the town is who gets sued for granting the permit. And so it puts the town at risk, and it puts the applicant ultimately at risk because they typically enjoin on the suit because it's their approval that they want to protect. And that is, it would be easily won, in my opinion.
Okay.
So for that reason, I'd recommend that you withdraw this application and make one for what you
I appreciate your request and recommendation. I guess my question would be to ask this board to waive the fees to allow that to happen. And the reason I asked this board for that is because while I was witness, the Dawsons were witness, and over that a certain period of time, there was no way ambiguous that there was a business going to be operating in there, and we were operating under the sole direction of our building inspector. Not to throw Steve under the bus here, it can be a mistake on all parties, but it's really important that that is out.
I guess if the applicant were going to withdraw their application for a variance and make another application, I would make a motion that we waive the application and notification fees.
Can I speak?
There's a motion on the table.
Well, the paperwork that I have, I've also got witnesses, state, fire chief, what was said. And I'm not, there's some discrepancy there.
Yeah, Go ahead. But I'm not questioning.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning
Oh, I
that at all,
understand.
Steve.
I understand that.
I'm simply, it seems like their, communication is usually the problem with, or the root of most problems. And what somebody hears and interprets, so, I don't think it's finger pointing so much as it's clear that the communication, either it wasn't communicated appropriately and you didn't understand it, or it was I don't know, but I just think that it's, they've made an application, we made a motion or made a decision to have a joint hearing, so that delayed it a little bit, and now we've come to the realization that this isn't what they really want, and so now there's going to be another delay, and I just feel like it's not an unreasonable concession, and that's why I was willing to make it, not because I don't think you did your job, or just.
Would I have the opportunity to check my files? Because it's probably written in what was sent out. Exactly. Or does it matter?
Steve, I don't think it changes the game. I mean, realistically, we just need to get the right thing done.
I understand
And
that.
I'm not pointing my finger at you, and I don't think you're pointing your finger at me.
I understand that.
So-
I understand that.
I mean, let's agree to disagree and try to go down the right path, is my thought process.
I have a couple of things to say to that. It seems to me that one of the reasons, as the chair of the ZBA, surprisingly so, at the last meeting, I made my decision simply because there seemed to be confusion. And that what I felt that a joint meeting would do would be to end some of that confusion and get some things straight without pointing fingers to you, Steve, or anybody. Just saying, different people have heard different things, different people have interpreted them. Let's just get it straight. Let's figure out what we need to do, and let's get it done. My question to you, Jim, and to the other ZBA members, in the terms of waiving it, would it be better for us to deny and then give them a waiver for a reapplication, or would it be better to allow him to withdraw and then make a motion to grant a waiver?
I believe that it's better to withdraw the application.
Okay.
Rather than denial.
And
I agree with it.
I agree with
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it's up to you, Ash, what you want to do. So let's just straighten things out. Okay, we're asking you to withdraw so that you can then apply again for your permit from the ZBA, who is going to reject it because you're putting more businesses into that building that is acceptable under the ordinance, so you need to come to us for variance on that.
On the third business.
Correct. And, and then we will given the circumstances, not promising that the motion will pass, waive the fees. Yes, Steve?
I'm just a little lost. The planning board, when this all started, they were granted to park their trucks in that garage if need be. That's it. That's not a business. He's just parking his trucks in there. Now we're talking offices, laundromats. It's all news to me. I understand what they wanted, but they had to come to the ZBA for all this. As far as I know, there's only 2 businesses there.
They're gonna have to do a site plan, I think anyways, at this point.
I don't think they know what they wanted.
Well, the truck wasn't a business. That was just putting their equipment in a garage that they were leaving. The laundromat and the lawn care. There's 2 businesses. He doesn't know what he wants to do with that other one, with that other business. It was just an open area. That's the last conversation we had. You didn't know if you wanted to use it or you did. You weren't sure at the time.
Which
No,
area
we
are you
just wanted to
talking
keep a part of the laundry
Bulk laundry.
and then
Oh, yeah.
separate.
Yeah, so you weren't
Yeah.
sure whether or not you're gonna open it up or not. You don't know that. Right
Correct.
now, you have 2 businesses there, and that's
Yep.
what you want.
But that's
Yep.
part of the current laundromat regardless.
Yeah, that's part of the current laundromat. So there would be one, my shop, and then ABC Lawn Care. So what I'm trying to alleviate right now, and maybe I've muddied the waters up a little bit, is I have asked to have my business in there, and I don't think I've communicated that properly to you or to the board.
Okay.
So, I mean, ultimately, that needs to have some zoning. And Dad and I have had this conversation multiple times, and I've been like, what is my area allowed to do? So I think this is gonna clean this up.
All right.
And this is gonna make a process where I know what I can and can't do. Brett knows what he can and can't do. I know what I can and cannot put in that building, and I know what I can do across the front. And then there's no more, confusion. We all have a plan. And I told you in probably the wrong words that I was gonna put my business in there. And I don't think I communicated that perfectly. to you.
That's fine. Well, we can do it now. a building
Yeah,
permit.
and I just want, let's clarify this. So this is what's happening.
So if you withdraw and reapply, you'll have to go to Steve and request 3 businesses, or if you want a future 4th, whatever you want, for him to deny the multiple uses.
Can you give me the ordinance that we should be referencing when we apply for that?
I'd like to.
You're gonna get yourself in trouble with that.
Now, Steve, you already issued a building permit for the laundromat, right?
Laundromat.
For the entire
So you need one for ABC.
Yeah.
The laundromat, in order to open the laundromat, they needed a firewall put up for the truck storage and the laundry, and the ABC that's in there. ABC wasn't supposed to operate. They could leave their equipment in there. But they can open up the laundromat, all those firewalls are up.
Okay, great.
So they're ready to go.
So they need one for Dawson and they need one for ABC.
My current building permit is for the entire square footage of my building. So my question to Steve will be, do I have to pay $1,300 for another building permit?
No, it's gonna get denied.
No.
Okay, all right. Got it.
This is when the denial is
I'm running
good.
out here, guys.
I think you want to look at Article 4.4, structures and uses per lot. And be aware that there was a zoning change,
2 years ago.
yeah, in March of 2017. And I don't know if it's in the zoning ordinance that actually get handed out.
The new zoning ordinances just arrived today. I've already sent it to have it put on the town website.
Okay.
So as soon as that's,
Will that one include that law that was passed that allowed multiple buildings to operate businesses on one lot?
That's the rule.
4.4 allows more than one business.
Does it have a limit? Does it specify a limit?
We made it relative to lot coverage.
So if we're
Yeah,
based,
so maybe you don't.
if we base that on the old one and a new one came out today that allows,
That one,
On the new
that's
application,
17.
right,
yeah.
That's 17.
okay, okay.
Well, that's the section to read. If this has been amended so that you don't need a variance at all, then.
Well, while we're here at the zoning board, can we ask the zoning board to define that for us, because I'd hate to go through this, wait another 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and find out we're standing here again not needing a variance.
Zoning board's once a month.
There you go, but it's next week. Right, I get that.
It's short notice to notify.
Right.
two butters.
But I just, my point still stands, is if there is true clarification on the new zoning, I don't know if Jim's looking at a new one or the old one.
No, that was passed in 17.
Oh.
It has nothing to do with this year, other than it was passed. It was passed last year. Not in 18, but 17. She received the 18 changes today.
Was it passed from
I just want to make sure, I don't want to
2015
waste anybody's
to
time.
March this year is in there.
So what Ash is asking is, if he's been applying on an older ordinance that had not been updated, but now with the new updates in it, doesn't he go by the new one?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so I
Jim,
don't-
is there,
Do we
Jim,
know that that?
I
Is there a 4.4B?
Yeah, but that's for roadside
Commercial.
commercial. It's
Yeah.
not the village.
So I don't see any.
So I don't see the number.
There is no number, we never,
There's no changes.
So there used to be, it used to be for 2, and now it's,
now, we changed it from 2 to lot coverage.
Percentage of lot coverage.
Percentage of
Okay.
lot coverage.
so you're gonna have to figure out your percentage of lot coverage, and maybe you don't need a variance at all.
And where does that go?
How big is your?
3.5 acres. And it's, the total building is 6,600 square feet.
But you,
64.
look at the definition of lot coverage, and also look at the fact that you're in the Water Resource Protection District, which has a different restriction on lot coverage.
See.
So why, I guess my question, Jim, and I'm sorry to come back again,
Let's see if
while we're here right now, why can't the zoning board assist me with that? Because we know our square footage.
I think I've had this conversation before, but the zoning board is not, because they're quasi-judicial, they're not supposed to provide guidance. That's the planning board and the codes officer decision. We're supposed to hear appeals by administrative decisions or, so I'm just, I would,
Greg wants to say something.
I would just tell you that I would look at those, look at your definitions of lot coverage, look at the fact that you're in the Water Resource Protection District, and you may not need a variance at all, from the way I'm reading this new.
Could I ask our zoning officer to define that for us? Or is this not the forum?
That's in this jurisdiction to enforce the zoning ordinance.
Right, can I utilize this meeting to,
We can sit down tomorrow if you like.
Greg,
Greg Howard, West Ossipee, resident of the town of Ossipee for 31 years. Tried to be active in the community, and I take tremendous pride in being a resident of Ossipee. But the last few years, I've become increasingly frustrated with what appears to be a lack of knowledge and professionalism by people who are serving on some of our boards. And we're seeing business people and potentially other residents having to go through the issue of they're asking questions and they're not getting the assistance that they're entitled to. The boards, I understand with the zoning board, it's a pure judicial, but we have a planning board, we have a code enforcement officer. We should have people who know the regulations and can provide clear and concise information to potential applicants. So people come prepared, they minimize the board's time because they have all the necessary materials, and they get their approvals in a time frame that is reasonable. A business property like this, there are carrying costs before it can generate any income. That is creating a tremendous hardship. And I'm gonna tell you right now, with going in front of boards in other towns, people looking at this town, they're not gonna look at this town. Even though we have the advantage of the Route 16 roadside commercial corridor and all the high traffic counts, the process is too vague and not specific. And those are my opinions.
I could take issue about half of that tonight, but I'm not gone, because I ain't got time enough in this meeting. So I think you're a little out of line in some of that. My personal opinion.
Greg, I will say, Ash and I have hashed over quite a few things. But if you go by the applications, or whatever you want, site plan, boundary line adjustment, subdivision, they all go boom, 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 boom. This is required. This is not required. He is put on the application, and I brought this up to when Granite Recovery was here. 16B is a state road. We require a DOT, a copy of the DOT driveway. Okay. Main Street's the same way. It's on the checklist. DOT or town road. Ash put on his, not up.
My point is directed mainly at this whole concern, well, this whole confusion over whether or not he needs a variance for what is now apparent, what is intended to occur at the property.
According to the denial letter, it was 34 point whatever it is. And denial letter was for 34.2 in. That's all we have to go by until he comes and all of a sudden what is on that denial letter is not what they want. So we're only going by what they want.
I'm going to interfere here. It seems to me we're getting off the topic.
Right.
Yes.
The topic last I heard was that we were trying to decide what Ash needed to do and whether it would be better to withdraw it, we'll grant you a waiver, and that we can move on. I don't want to, you and the gentleman can continue your discussions, but from the ZBA's point of view, I don't want to be pointing fingers at this point more than we've already done. Ash.
So I'm going to rephrase my question.
Sure.
If this is a joint meeting that allows planning board to chime in, I'm guessing I can ask questions to that planning board.
What, you can ask the planning board any questions you want about site plan review or whatever. Right now, the zoning board is attempting to deal with your request for a variance.
It might help that variance.
Okay.
My question
If
would be,
if you think it might, I have no problem.
This question is directed to the planning board. As Jim pointed out that the zoning board can't give guidance, can the planning board define for me currently in our new 2018 zoning handbook what we're allowed to do and if we require a variance?
Number one, I'll back it up. We do not make that decision. The zoning officer does.
Okay.
He is the enforcer, the enforcer of the ordinance.
Then I will again rephrase my question. On record, I'd like Steve to let me know with the 2018 handbook if we do or do not need a variance tonight.
Not tonight. If you'd like to resubmit what you propose to do, I will sit down with you tomorrow. If you have to go to the ZBA, I'll let you know. If you do not have to, I'll let you know.
So I want to I want to point out the reason why is, again, even having two boards in this room, we can't get a definitive answer in current time on what is allowed and not allowed in our zoning ordinance. And I think that's,
You're wrong.
No.
That's because you don't know what you want.
I know exactly what we want.
No.
And that's wildly inappropriate.
We, as a planning board,
Yes.
we follow the ordinance. That gentleman right over there, his official title is zoning officer. He works for the selectmen
No, he works for the taxpayers.
as far as the zoning officer goes. He works for the selectmen. If he finds something out that is not right, he can go to the selectmen. The selectmen can find that person.
I'm certainly not asking for that.
No, I'm not saying it, but that's what his job is.
Thank you.
And let me add, 4.4 changes slightly from the amendments that were done in 2017, but it doesn't change what you're trying to do. In the village, residential, and rural districts, there shall not be more than one principal structure allowed per lot. In the village district, both commercial and residential uses may be combined in the same structure. An accessory structure may be permitted on the premises consistent with the use of the principal structure. An accessory structure intended for use or occupancy as a dwelling must comply with regulations pertaining thereto. So what the change was to take into consideration the state's changes on accessory dwellings. But it doesn't change the numbers or whatever.
The number of uses.
And the permissible percentage, as you were talking about, applies only to the roadside commercial node and corridor districts, and doesn't fit the village district.
Thank you.
Now this is
Hot off the press.
hot off the press. Laura got it this afternoon from the lawyer. So,
And all I wanted was that defined. That's all I wanted.
And as I've mentioned twice, read Article 20, which is the Water Resource Protection District, which you fall in, which says one of the things that you need to go to the planning board for a special use permit is rendering impervious more than 20% of the total lot's area, regardless of size, and any use retaining less than 30% of the total lot area in its natural vegetative state, and not more than minor removal of existing trees and vegetation. So those are two thresholds that you also have to comply with, that if you want to, those require special use permits at the planning board level, not the zoning board.
Thank you.
so the question comes back to you, Ash.
Yes, I think we'll withdraw the variance application tonight.
Okay. Having heard that, Mr. Rhymes, we're going to make a motion.
Yeah, you did. Nobody seconded
Yeah,
it.
second. Was it second, was it made? I
I mean, he
didn't
can
realize he
withdraw
made it.
without
He did. James did.
prejudice, it seems to me.
Yeah, I mean, I made a motion that if he withdrew it, that if he
They
were
would
to
waive the
apply
fees.
again, that we waive the application and notification fees.
Could you add to that? At our last meeting, because we were carrying on, we said that we would not in any way, shape, or form or give directions to the ZEO officer to terminate the landscape off, that the landscape business could continue. I think, Steve, you had granted them that right?
They could use the warehouse part of it. They can't work out of it, but they can store their equipment there.
Okay, so they continue to do that until we make, so could you add that to your motion or not?
I think that's something that the town is allowing them to do, so I don't
Okay.
think I need to put it in my motion.
No, okay. Just as long as we understand that it continues. Okay. So, Mr. Ryan has made a motion, I need a second. It's been moved and seconded, is there any discussion on the motion? I'll take the roll call, please, Laura.
Okay, Jim Rines,
Yes?
Ed McDonald,
Yes.
Roy Barron,
Yes.
Ralph.
Yes. Motion passes. It seems to me also at this point of the evening, anything for site plan considerations and whatever with Ash or with your other folks, other cases, it looks like you have a pretty full.
I hereby close the joint meeting between the ZBA and the planning board.
We need to go to site plan for that business, that second business that's in there, 'cause that would, am I wrong in that? Because tonight, after this meeting, we heard there can only be 2 businesses in there. And if Dawson backs his truck out, he can continue renting to ABC's, isn't that correct?
You asked for a site plan.
I believe originally we had asked that Jake comes before us with a site plan review if he decided to put a second business in there, because he was only informing the board that there was gonna be, just the laundromat was gonna reopen, and the cleaners had moved out long before the laundromat closed, so the 2 years had expired and the place had been vacant for an extended period of
Less than 2
time.
years.
I'm sorry?
Less than 2 years.
For the dry cleaners? Talking about the dry cleaners?
Oh,
Both closed at the same time?
Yeah.
Jake did not know what he wanted to do with the dry cleaners portion. At the time, he said, I think maybe we'll have an ice cream shop. I'm still waiting.
About January.
I don't know if we have to officially adjourn.
What's that?
I don't know if we have to officially
Can you
adjourn.
give us one moment,
ZBA.
let the ZBA clear up, and we'll answer your questions.
Well, I mean, if we, Connie,
He
just,
closed
he's
it.
chair and he closed it.
There wasn't, was there a second and a,
Okay.
I think he just closed it because you've withdrawn the application.
only for the variance?
That's correct.
Yeah, but you also have a separate notice for site plan
Thank you, sorry.
on tonight's agenda.
I'm on, Jim.
Hopefully adjourn for the zone of what you need.
One extra Red Bull.
You take care of it.
Yeah.
I turned it off every night.
Sunday night, I said, I'll got 3 of them. Wait till next morning and see what happens.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to continue your site plan review? Because you're not granted tonight if you need variance.
So,
It's a catch-22.
it is, and I think while we were at break, we had a couple questions regarding the actual requirement for that variance, looking at the new zoning information. I hate to bother someone, but can I have that read again? Just that small section.
Oh, 4.4?
4.4A, I think.
Sorry.
I will do my best. 4.4, structures and uses per lot. A, in the village, residential, and rural districts, there shall not be more than one principal structure allowed per lot. In the village district,
No, you're wrong.
He's reading the new version that just came out. We said that earlier.
Yeah, but he changed it. Oh, wait a minute, no, excuse me.
Yes.
Go ahead, Peter, I'm sorry.
you don't gotta start over now, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, don't stand in the
I
car.
already forgot what you said.
In the village, residential, and rural districts, there shall not be more than one principal structure allowed per lot. In the village district, both commercial and residential uses may be combined in the same structure. An accessory structure may be permitted on the premises consisting with the,
You can stop there. The accessory uses don't apply. I guess what we're questioning in that is we're 100% in one structure. That building is 80 by 80 roughly. The businesses are in that structure. Is it based on that solely? Would a variance really be required?
Like I said before, that is the man that will tell you.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have the authority to tell you.
Okay. And so then I guess my second question would be, if we move forward with the site plan review tonight, in the agenda and the application it was based on warehouse and storage. And while we're all at that last part of the meeting, the topic changed from warehouse and storage to a business there, hence bringing on a lot of this questioning. Can we utilize this meeting to discuss a change of use in that location?
Be non-binding, wouldn't it?
No, just a minute. I'm looking for his application. Do not specify on your application. You don't specify on your application.
I'm looking at that right now.
Storehouse and warehouse and storage.
So I guess my question then would be to the board is, how do we proceed from here?
One, you can ask for a continuance until you find out whether you have need a variance, or we can proceed tonight on conditional. If we approve it, it'll be conditional.
And that would be for having a business in that southeast portion of the building?
You can't do that because
No.
the notice came.
Unfortunately,
No, he noticed.
the second part of the notice was for warehouse and storage. That does have, unfortunately, I think that's gotta be updated. Because, right now your abutters have been noticed for warehouse and storage, not for another business, so I think,
It's the same thing as ZBA. come up
I
with.
think I was-
Can't do it.
I was kind of leaning towards that, where we might be in his advantage to withdraw the application
Or continue?
No,
Or continue.
Yeah, I would much rather continue.
Okay. And can you amend it to reflect the correct?
We just need that notification to the letters, is what your reasoning would be for that?
You may continue it. And there has never been a site plan, is that correct?
No, there has been a site plan, but when I came before this board at an informal, I brought it here to see what the board's thoughts of how it was laid out, and it was very clear to me by members of this board that the map didn't count, there weren't signatures, yada, yada, yada.
No.
And not.
No.
There was a site plan on
There
it.
was.
I have.
What you came to us with was the ZVAs or the storage.
No, it's for a landscape plan.
No. When you came in front of us in the informal,
Oh, okay, sure.
you said, I have a storage thing.
Right,
Was not signed.
right.
So,
Right, I mean, we're hashing old news, because I
Right.
applied for a brand new site plan tonight.
right.
Yeah.
So if there's no site plan, then, because if there is a previous site plan, the site plan has to be an amendment. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, and that night, I read the minute where there was a site plan, I can cite it right now, in 1995, with Jim Rhines making the motion to approve a site plan for this property. I showed everyone here what the plans were in that file, and it was made apparent to me that that wouldn't count.
I don't
Would you like me to cite those minutes?
know. But, let's go with your application.
Okay.
If you want to continue tonight.
Okay, again, I will ask my question. His application is for warehouse and storage facility. He does not want that.
Right.
Okay, it's a second business.
You can't consider something that hasn't been noticed properly.
We can only do a off the record, we can't continue with what he wants to do tonight, with what Peter just said.
Well, he does.
That's why I made the suggestion that he withdraws this application, and I'm gonna make a motion that we cover his expenses and he renotices. And I know it's gonna be, I know the time element's gonna come into play here, but, I mean, how can we proceed on this?
It's true. It's because you were J. William Dawson Jr. owner the site plan review from Article
Notice.
34.2 and 35.2 to reopen the laundromat, having warehouse storage facilities, and to rent the building to a site landscape. So,
What was the last part?
What was the last part?
Mr. Dawson also wants to rent a portion of his building to a landscape company.
There you go.
Right.
So to me, it sounds like we can talk about the rental of that landscape company and having a business in that section.
Sounds good. I'm satisfied with that.
We can have the site plan. And they will have to, we can still have the site plan, but they'll have to modify their application to take the warehouse storage out.
The zoning board, you were at the last meeting, allowed me to correct that on our application with a signature from myself and I think someone on the board, or I can't recall. I think someone else signed it as well. Can I-
Ralph or was the other gentleman?
It was, yeah, it was someone, I can't recall who.
I think it was actually this gentleman right here signed it.
No, he
Stanley.
had recused himself.
If it wasn't him, it was Ralph.
Yeah. So I might ask the board to consider that.
What does the board wish to do?
I figured,
So what
hold the
we're
board.
talking about here is, we're gonna have a change of use than what you asked for tonight. Instead of a storage facility or warehouse, you're gonna go for businesses. And from the previous meeting, the zoning board, they pulled your affidavit application. And you're gonna check on a variance, you may not even need it, but you're gonna check to see whether or not you need it. That's a different issue. Now, the issue with us is, we can't change anything here tonight because we need to notify all the abutters. There's a change, right?
Initially, I thought so, but in the notification that went in the paper, it did specify the landscape business
Okay.
and the storage, so that is in there, so it's been
Okay.
noticed.
Well, it's the same way
So
for
you
the
withdraw and the landscaping
ZBA,
is
it's the
there.
same
Like, if I
register.
understand
notice.
everything,
Right.
So,
the things that are going on there right now, as far as the landscape business being there, and what you wanna do, that can continue. And you have to apply for a new site plan review.
No, a variance if we find that we need one
Yeah,
for
but
the
you're gonna
having
need a
that.
site plan, right? If you put another business in there.
I would think that we would need a site plan just based on having a business in there and renting that company.
But what I'm saying, that's what we talked about. So we need a site plan from you, and we'll go from there, right?
I just submitted it.
he submitted.
That's why we're here tonight.
That one will cover it, because the landscaping business is in there. That's what I was concerned about, it's in there, we're good to go. The
Yeah.
only
We
the
don't
only
need-
difference is the warehouse storage might have to change to Dawson warehouse storage.
Okay. all
We
right.
can add a word in there.
Trying to get,
Because as of right now, that's all
Everybody
Jake,
else here.
correct, as of right now, all you wanna do is store equipment there. So that's the third business, and, I mean, I'm fine if we put Dawson in front of warehouse storage and get the ball rolling here. Can we pull the board for this?
I think it needs to be renoticed.
Before we poll, can I have a second on the motion?
Second.
We made the motion.
Come on!
I'll second it.
Everything else that's going on here tonight.
Roy, second.
You wonder why I drank.
I mean, there is no, it's,
Now you need to take a
No.
vote on that, don't you?
oh, wait a minute. Are you making a motion, Peter, or just polling the board? Because if you're polling the board,
What is
we
your
don't need a
motion?
second.
Hold on. I asked the chairman to pull the board. I am fine accepting this application as complete,
Well, it's not complete, but,
with conditional acceptance.
so you want to make a motion to that effect?
Yes.
The amended application,
This one that's before us now, okay,
it will be amended,
it will be amended, yeah,
correct?
okay. And then we'll,
Amended,
Amended and conditional, right?
that's what I just said.
Okay.
Yes.
I will second that.
all right. Now we can have a discussion. Any more discussion? All those in favor? All opposed?
You abstaining?
Yes. Not a tie vote, I can't vote.
I think you can vote if you want to.
All right, now,
Motion passed.
we'll go over the application. Mr. Dawson, you did not supply a deed, right? Is that correct?
We submitted a
It was
lease. It says on the application that it's or.
Copy of the deed or other proof of ownership of leases.
Yeah, and that leasee's authorization should cover
Right.
that.
The only other, I would say conditional is your curb cut.
So I talked to New Hampshire DOT. I've got to fill out an application because there's never been a permit. So the previous site plan was approved without the permit too. So
That's,
I'd move, subject to check, I think it's next week sometime I'm supposed to meet with them.
well, it'll be conditional,
That's fine, okay.
you know. I mean, people say that, you know, we're strict, but like you found out, there's never been a curb cut.
Right.
They might tell you you can only have one driveway, not two. So that's why we asked for it. And the water and sewer were okayed by the selectmen, correct? I've got the application, but we don't have their signature.
Yeah.
So
It was submitted.
it was submitted,
And it should have gone in front of your board,
It did.
it
was
did,
approved.
and it was
it
approved.
was approved.
That's good because it's on.
So that, that'll be another condition that you get that.
Two here.
Signed to us.
Sure.
And the fire department is fine.
A letter from them.
Well, he does have a letter in here. Doesn't tell us too much.
All it says is they're working towards compliance.
Yeah,
Thinking inspector.
we are currently working with the property owner to gain compliance.
That's right. And what we, like all.
So, I mean, if you, after you get through, can get another letter from them saying that you satisfied,
Final letter,
right?
final inspection letter.
Sure.
I know, he's famous for that. All right. I think,
You have the outside lighting plan, is showing here checked off,
Yeah, that's
In
attached to your
compliance.
application.
but you're asking for a waiver on that too, right?
No, it's listed on the waiver sheet, but separated by that line, and it just says lighting plan. Mr. Dawson will be adding up to 2 motion detection security lights on all 4 sides of the existing building. These are for security and safety. All lights installed will be down there.
that's gotta be presented. In other words, you gotta follow the dark skies.
Right.
So, whatever you have there, you've got to show illumination. So that'll be conditional too,
On
like,
On the
site
plan.
plan itself?
yeah.
Just kind of a radius of what that lighting will look like.
I believe you can, make a motion that we accept the application as, conditional.
You mean approve the application? You mean approve it, right?
No, I'm saying we accept the application conditionally.
I thought we already did that.
Already did that.
That was my motion.
That was his
Yeah,
That's
but
why.
he didn't name what had to be done.
I think it was just a DOT permit, correct?
DOT lighting,
So
fire chief's letter,
Well,
water and sewer side. He didn't say anything.
that's correct, but why don't we just save all that for the approval portion of it? Granting conditional approval,
Yeah.
pending.
With all the conditions put on it, 'cause we already got the conditional.
His motion was,
Well, we weren't aware of the
for
lighting.
an amended and conditional application.
But if you're conditional, you're gonna give the conditions.
But now you're giving the conditions.
At the approval thing.
All right. Mr. Fishbein, you may start.
All right, so, the Dawsons would like to operate another business in their building at 80 Route 16. They're looking to, currently, this board has allowed Jake to operate his laundromat, but before getting that opened, a building permit was issued to create a firewall between that laundromat and any other portion of the building that's not a part of that business. That wall, learning tonight, has been added, and that wall is the southwest wall looking on this map here. It would be,
Wait a minute,
yes, sir?
that's inside the building,
Yes.
not our purview.
Yeah. That's zoning. So we don't need.
That's
Okay.
strictly Steve's.
But don't I still need to get the landscape company?
No, that's only with him.
Not inside
Okay.
the wall is Steve's.
Okay,
The exterior
okay.
is planning board.
So we
What's that?
can, grant or not grant, another business going in there or using it for more than one business, but we're not gonna tell you what the inside's supposed to look like and what has to be done to bring it in compliance so that the two businesses can be there. That's Steve.
Sure, I was just
So-
explaining the full scope of what we're
Okay.
talking about, that's all.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what our goal here is to operate another business in that corner of the building. It doesn't have, if you look on the other plan, the requirement was for various requirements for the parking. I think we've covered enough of the parking spaces to allow that. Obviously, the lighting plan we just discussed, and I can update this plot plan for that. Ultimately, there isn't much change to the outside of the building other than updating the facade. I do have a couple questions regarding sign placement, but outside of that, it's
We don't do sign, he does.
perfect. Perfect. Eat a healthy breakfast. Add an extra egg. So the ultimately, if that's the case, I mean, it's as kind of cut and dry. We're not changing anything on the outside of the building. Jake is working on a permit for the curb cuts. Of course, we'll do whatever is required by NHDOT. But we wanted to update the 80 Route 16 site, the file that you guys keep here, to keep this board informed as to what Mr. Dawson's intentions are. So, with that being said, I did submit a letter to the board, pretty much spelling out what we're looking to do. Outside of that, I think we all know the history of this project, the history of the building, and I'd love to take any questions from the board at this time.
You, what's the square footage of this building and how many parking spaces are required?
So what we're showing here is there's a total written over on the side, 48 parking spaces, including two van handicapped accessible spaces, All spaces are 9 by 18 feet. Shared H area is 8 feet wide and in compliance with the town regulations.
The question,
35. 35.
you have 1, 2, 3, 6 in the front. That is not gonna handle the laundromat.
I mean, that's speculation.
No, square footage.
There is,
What's the square footage of the laundromat?
wasn't working on that area. Yeah, roughly 30 by 30. So 900 and it's 200 per parking space. You're at
Okay.
5.
We got an extra one.
But the rest of these parking spaces, they may be technically there. But if you got a privacy gate, public is not gonna be able to use it.
Yeah, and I think there is, as in the past, where that privacy gate is going, there was always head-on parking along that privacy gate. So if we do find, if the Dawsons find that there is a parking issue, there's certainly ability to add perpendicular parking there in front of that privacy gate. And I think that would open up probably 4, maybe 5 parking
You
spaces.
have parking on the other side too.
Yeah, and if you look, yeah, there's already cars parked right there,
Right.
head in. So I think we were just looking to necessarily appease by the square footage. I think there's a lot of place to expand. Putting that on this may indicate a requirement that we would be doing that. But to satisfy the regulations of the town, I feel like we've done that.
Jake, how many total trucks do you have?
I don't even know.
Count them.
It's gonna take a minute. I believe 12.
Then you're gonna have to have a variance. Because it's only allowed 10.
What's only allowed 10?
A trucking terminal, which is that,
What are you classifying as a truck?
Yeah,
Are you saying a pickup truck or are you saying a dump truck?
it doesn't, there's no distinction.
So Hannaford is a trucking terminal? I'm just trying to figure this out.
No.
Okay.
Outdoor storage is permitted in this space. And I don't recall seeing anything in there that requires or has limit to its parking or storage.
I would imagine, which in that case it would be, today it would be 1, 2, 3 over the 25,000, 26,900. Tomorrow that will be 2.
And if the rest are parking spaces and we didn't have a gate there, that would be parking. We can all agree this is not a trucking terminal.
How much of the lot is covered, do you know?
It's 3.5 acres. There is some impervious material in the back of that building, slightly northwest of that, northeast of that building. But the building currently sitting is 80 by 80, so 6,400 square feet. That pad that's there is probably another 6,400 square feet. So you're at 12.8, and then there's a little pad you can see with a car on it. I mean, that can't be more than probably 600 square feet.
Oh, you don't have 50%.
Oh, no.
No.
No, there's 3.5 acres of, most of it's unused.
They would have to cover 76,000 square feet.
Just shy. But hopefully Mr. Dawson will grow his business to require that.
The only business that you have there that requires customer parking is gonna be the laundromat.
That's right. Yeah.
And how many machines you have, maybe 15 or 20? Or-
But and if they're there, they're not making money.
We have 20 washing machines.
Yeah, so you got more than enough parking for any commercial use.
And it's based on square footage.
I mean, I'm quoting Nash, truck terminal with more than 10 trucks.
I'm not applying for being a truck terminal. Is that a permitted use or non-permitted use? Is that a town ordinance with a use like?
2.2, 20.2 E,
Again,
use regulations within the water district.
right. But is that if someone were applying for or to be?
I'm just going by
What's the definition of trucks on
Watershed
that?
protection order.
What do they use for definition for trucks?
They don't,
Oh.
yeah.
I wouldn't classify a pick, I mean, I'm not trying to read into this, but
I mean, a boat's a vehicle, we have places to store.
I'd say truck terminals, commercial.
Yes, that's what I would think.
like,
Truck, commercial, heavy equipment.
That'd be the 26,900 or the hell it is.
I mean, I'm just trying to cover all the bases so that nobody can come back to us. That's the other thing on the definitions, solid waste. Useless, unwanted, or discarded solid material with insufficient liquid content to be free-flowing. This includes, but not limited to rubbish, garbage, scrap materials, junk refuge, inert fill material, and landscape run, which is not allowed in the water district.
You
So
dirt. You can't have dirt and sand and dirt.
not according to that.
We got some digging to do.
What do folks do when they're in the watershed district and have signs out that say, need fill?
Or, I mean,
A
just.
lot of bucks being passed this
No,
evening.
but I mean,
These are enforcement right out.
Sure.
we're not enforcing. But I mean, I'm trying to bring out things.
So are you saying that there's an issue currently as this property sits that you're referring to?
His property.
Yeah, what is it that you're referring to? Other than outside of reading what you just did, is there a point? Is there a case? Is
That
there-
he's got, under the definition, he's got solid waste.
He's got dirt. Landscape companies hold bark mulch piles, have loam piles, rock piles.
And they're not allowed. That's all I'm telling you, Ash. I'm reading.
All right. Can,
No road salt.
on the roads? Okay,
No road salt, allowed in there.
okay.
In other words, if Fred is using salt, he can't store it there. What, Jake, you wanted to say something?
I'm trying to wrap my head, I mean, from the perspective of my industry, when I hear solid waste, I don't hear loam or wood chips or fill material. I hear solid waste as in something that's flowable. You know, and that's their concern, is they don't want you to come out and dump raw sewage, or they don't want you to come out and dump, you know, a liquid.
What are wood chips? What do you consider wood chips?
Wood chips, that's why they have a name.
That's
Nature.
A lot of people use it for landscaping, actually.
I could use them for anything, so, I mean, those wood chips are actually there to be used on site.
Apparently they have a big
I'm just, like I say, I'm just gonna point things out.
No, I get it.
Then, I have a question.
I understand that. I mean, not that I want to take any spotlight off myself, but I mean, we have the state storing salt and sand across the street from me. I know that. I understand that.
Yeah.
So you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately.
Question in the back there, Joe?
I'm just trying to follow along. Can you tell me where in the zoning the information for what you're talking about is right now?
Definitions of solid waste.
Do you know what, can you tell me where?
Definitions.
Yeah, it's in the front.
Definitions. Actually, page 77.
Page what?
77.
77, thank you.
Is there anything we can define? If you're the enforcer,
Contaminated.
contaminated soils.
That's what I'd look at.
Right.
So if they're a clean product,
Well, it helps if you read the ordinance before you try to make a determination.
Is there a change in the ordinance?
There are a number of places
In the
that
ordinance,
sell
is there a
bark,
change for
boom,
that stuff?
chips.
I don't think we did one on that one.
Oh, we did.
Many mills produce it.
Definition.
We did changes for definitions, but not that one.
there you go.
Yeah. So
We need to
there's
change
a misunderstanding.
So Connie, just to look into this a little bit more, in reading that, the last line says inert fill material and landscape refuse. We're talking landscape material, not refuse. So refuse would indicate to me that it's kind of at its terminal end and not need to be reused or possibly used again.
Shrubs and weeds.
But it's brought up to me, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Who brought that up to you?
A person brought it up to me.
Okay.
But you got the Water Resource District is 20.1. And the principal uses, accessory uses, 20.2.2, 22.2.1. Those are all things that you've got to contend with.
Sure. Well, I thank you for that. I will have a conversation with Steve regarding that since he's the enforcer.
Well, you should read page 58 of the zoning ordinance.
Maybe you'd like to read it for us.
Not my job, but you should know this stuff before you go on.
Actually, you're wrong. It's our job to help them along with this stuff.
That's right.
That's rude.
Well, to come in here unprepared is
I'm
just
very
as rude.
prepared. I wasn't prepared for that question. And come to find out, it falls under our zoning officer, so that will be handled tomorrow.
I would almost think if there's any issue with that, it would fall under DES anyway, more than it would count. And I don't think there is, because half the mills in the state would have to close. Everybody stores stuff.
So, taking that under advisement, is there a next topic that the board would like to discuss.
I can't find
Anybody else got
what
questions?
he's talking about. I found everything else.
What are you looking for?
The wood chips and the materials you're talking about, and not in this one.
It's in definitions,
That's where I am.
page 77.
Okay.
All right.
Fine. Are you talking page 77 of the zoning ordinance?
What?
Because there's nothing on 77 of the old.
It's not here in this one.
My book has got it.
Well, this book doesn't have it.
This is the book that's on the town website, which should be common.
Is that the one that was just put on today?
I'm on your site.
But did that, the zoning changes get put on there
Does the
today?
front page
Laura
say
said she just submitted it
2018?
today.
That's what I'm wondering, is that what he's looking at?
This is from the full website.
That one has not been uploaded.
This is revised to March 10, 2015.
That's the old.
Oh, it's the old
On the
one.
website. So,
It came in hot off the presses today.
is there a new one on the website?
Wow.
Yes.
This is it.
Yeah.
Laura sent
I've
Laura sent
submitted
it
it.
to the website.
I have submitted it to be put on the
So it
website.
hasn't gone. Okay. All right.
But if you look at the definitions, Joe,
And I was. The definitions at the end of the book?
Article 33, definitions.
Which one? Which definition? Solid waste?
That's what he's looking for.
It's already been made clear that Steve will handle that with us tomorrow. Is there another copy? I feel bad for the folks that are in your regular meeting this evening. If we can keep it succinct, pardon my brevity, but in consideration of the other applicants that are here tonight, I would consider.
I'd like Steve looking at that, because it's not in this book. Maybe in his book, it's not in ours.
There it is.
So, are we good with any questions or anything else? Can we make a motion, or we approve this application for site plan review? With the conditional, with the following conditions needing to be met? And that's a final letter from the fire chief, the letter from the selectmen granting the water and sewer, which we already know they approved, a revised lighting plan, and the letter from DOT approving the curb cuts.
Peter, I would rather continue it from a month to see what the ZBA is gonna do.
The ZBA is gonna do with what?
And meet all state and federal regulations like we always do.
Meet all state and federal regulations.
I said,
We
what
don't
they're
know if they.
talking about, we'll probably fall under DES, and it's no problem.
Yeah.
Point of order, there's a motion on the floor.
And landscape review.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
All the way from the
I think I made it clear.
I'll second.
So there's a motion on the floor and has been seconded.
Well, what's the motion,
The
please?
motion was that we approve this application conditionally, and the following conditions need to be met. Letter from the fire chief, final letter from the fire chief, the selectmen's letter for the water and sewer permission, which I know they've already received since Martha said so, a revised lighting plan, and a curb cut approval from DOT, and that they meet all state and federal, local
Has that been seconded?
regulations.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more discussion?
Yes. I don't see how we can, we'll be circumventing the ZBA by conditional approval.
I'm sorry, but the ZBA tonight very clearly stated that they don't even know if he needs a variance. So what are we circumventing?
Well, if we give a conditional approval.
Shouldn't you know that already? I mean, shouldn't you like have read through this and like understand the regulations before you speak out? I mean, seriously. I mean, you know, you just said it to someone else, you know, and, you know, I'm a little ticked off that you're bringing stuff
Well,
up.
I know for a fact that if we approve the,
I'm not gonna have this stuff.
I apologize.
Actually, with the water district thing there and zoning they're in, I think they do go back to ZBA. So we should make it conditional to the point, if they need to go to ZBA, they do. It should be added in there. We're not overriding ZBA.
I believe it's that all federal, state, and local regulations, right? So if they need to go back, that's a local regulation, and they're all
I
set.
think they're gonna have a little bit, I think they have to go back personally. But we can still do a conditional based on the fact that the ZBA approves or disapproves. If the ZBA disapproves, then it's no good anyways.
Correct.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What I'm applying for at the site plan level, and the planning board level, is the permission to have a particular use. That would fall.
If there is a variance required,
Please let me finish. Just hear me out, Connie. Thank you. If that's what we're doing, Pete's motion included all local, state, and federal regulations were to be observed, even if that motion were granted or conditional approval were granted without the variance and zoning board conditional, I would still fall under that local regulation of whether or not I'm allowed to use, to do the
That's
use.
why
That's
I
why,
asked you to put that in there.
correct, and that's why we do it. Just in case we miss something and there's something else comes up, then it doesn't tie them up and bring them back here again. They can just go get their variance and be on their merry way.
As long as we're all on the same page is all I care. Don't need to have them back in here again with another headache.
We like you guys.
We're busy today.
Jake, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment. Try a little about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
He'll answer me, I'll have no idea.
I shut my phone off.
I know where you live.
I know where I live too.
Hope you like dogs.
I hope you like me.
Any more discussion? Motion is made and seconded. Call for a vote. All those in favor? Or opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all for your time tonight. I apologize to all of you. Good luck. Loosen it up for you.
You want me to leave you a message now?
Jeez, I'll tell you. Thanks.
Okay. Get any troubles on any of these regulations, come see me in office. I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks, another week. All right? Good luck, Jake.
Thank you.
The bill's in the mail. We mailed it last week.
Like 12 grand in permit.
Minutes of July 17th.
Take a motion to accept the minutes.
Made. Anyone second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries. Budget report. We don't owe anybody. Oh, I gotta sign these, all right. Unconditioned, satisfied conditions. Did we get Verizon's?
Nope.
You should have a letter any day. Be busy.
I don't care, shut them down.
Everything's been completed, it's all installed. You're waiting for the fire chief to get you a letter.
Has Carl not gone there? Is that what it is, or he just hasn't
I
gotten?
went there. I verified it, I'll agree, he's busy.
He just has. Okay, so he just hasn't gotten the letter.
He's just busy.
Gotcha.
Did we receive anything else for her? Nothing from Van Hersel or Montgomery?
Van Hertzel, I spoke with them today. They are dropping by revised plans and stuff tomorrow,
Alright,
so we should have that for the next meeting.
nothing for grant recovery?
No.
Okay.
Have you got anything from Berry Pit yet?
I should ask Jimmy tonight.
No, didn't he say that would be coming in September?
Okay. They're well over the 5 acres.
Yeah, 'cause he's doing up the new reclamation for them.
He's doing the
Yeah, so he had announced months ago that it would be in September.
new business, case number 18-1, boundary line adjustment, Look East LLC and Omega LLC. 18A and 1020 Route 16, tax map 118 lot 03 and 02 have applied for a boundary line adjustment. Make a motion that we grant the boundary line adjustment.
Look at it.
No, they came in and talked about it. Not the first one.
The other marker.
And what they're doing is what?
I'm Bob Tafuto with Amanuensis Survey.
Yeah,
This is us, we're swapping even amounts of land
right.
right here, right here. Snow machine trails were put onto Look East's property, and Ossipee LLC has agreed to give him this land in the back so that they don't need to move the trails. And so we're exchanging
Now, there's
equal
also
amounts.
this old line. Their septic system is on there.
The septic system is right in this corner here. I
Right.
don't know that it crosses onto that, but it won't anymore.
That's what he told me.
I don't think that they actually know exactly where it is.
When he came in and had an informal with us, he said, this is what, and we said, we can't do anything, you gotta go to,
Yep, Costantino.
Constantino, and the two of you agree on where, what you can do.
Yep, and so
And
they've
this
agreed,
is-
and it's equal amounts of land, so there's no change in any density or anything else.
You finish your motion?
Made a motion, we approve it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I remember this discussion.
What's that?
When Jerry Powell made his restaurant and put the septic in, and they put the building in for real estate. And the septic was, ended up on the real estate agents. You remember correctly down there.
So this is behind Gerard's, this is Gerard's property we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay,
Just doing a land swap to straighten it out.
They're doing equal.
sounds good.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Excuse me, I believe the Mylar that we sent needs my signature on it. I think I signed all the paper copies, but not the Mylar. If I could, I'll sign it and then. you record it and then-
Thank you.
It's okay, Steve. Steve, you'll have the late night feeding.
Steve's enjoying himself. Especially after Abrams.
Gentlemen, you want to state your case?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I want to call it.
Here speaking for Don Goodrich. We're working on the project there at Ossipee House Pizza. Hoping to open up the ice cream coffee shop. There used to be Carroll County Choppers, previously multiple other businesses in the past.
Anyone got questions for him?
I have no bus for you, Steve.
First, we gotta accept the application. You read it, Peter?
I have not. I don't have a copy of it with me. Thank you.
I have highlighted one of the plans.
Peter's got it.
Peter?
Thank you.
That's why I didn't push it.
Scooch in a little bit.
Wait till she shoves on that. Yeah, they shouldn't have had a secretary down, just crossing it off.
You have the documentation on the septic.
I believe I acquired that. It was the original approval for that existing system. Approval for operation, I believe, is in all that. Beyond that, we have a design from Mark McConkey that is intended to be a backup system in case anything should occur with the one that's existing. That was originally for an ice cream shop and whatever else was on the list there to begin with.
You got my map, Pete.
I'm sorry?
Said you have my map.
This one's yours? The one with the highlights on it?
No, I got the big one.
All right.
Mylar on the bottom.
Yeah, again, there was only one that was highlighted with the
They do have the fire chief's letter.
Do I?
They have the fire chief's
Oh,
letter.
they do. Fire chief Rose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pending a revised plan for Martha County.
You guys like this?
Got highlights on it.
My understanding, septic design was for a backup plan for in case anything had occurred for the one that's existing there.
Hip pocket approval.
Excuse me?
Hip pocket approval, we call it.
Yeah, 36C
Right.
Western.
It's a few. If it's an ice cream shop, it's.
This is down here where that Carroll County
I
shop
suppose I did not define where actually the shop is there anyway, or is on there
Supposed to be
in
a,
particular.
some kind of soul center or something one time, or a hairdresser or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now
Yeah,
I
she
know.
moved, she moved up to by the jail.
Yeah.
by the county back.
I know where
I know,
you-
but I use one of the ladies to get my hair cut.
Okay, that's.
Is the application complete, Pete?
Is the application complete?
That's why I
don't think so.
needed smaller print.
It's required in the application.
Yeah,
I just brought it in tonight.
Still run like help 20 people road store.
Do you have any?
Do I get one?
Hmm?
Do I get one?
There is an example.
Did we need to see a copy of that?
It's, well, it's, always listed here.
Well, I give you a copy of that approval earlier today, did I not?
Which
I
one?
also gave approval employees, that's town and structural approval of the system back in the day.
They have 6 or 8 employees.
I
all
have
built
copies
by
here
us.
somewhere.
Let me go through it one more time in case I missed it.
Huh?
Letter.
4 employees, you know, more than what, take care of 36 seats.
No, that's up here.
Yeah?
That's up here, that's
Yeah.
where he's.
Yeah. Oh,
Lease
okay.
agreement.
And he's down here.
Yeah, he's down by the, he's down in the other place, yeah. It is what I went by today. Sit down.
Saw that one twice.
Which is, I don't want one.
Peter, this must have been yours.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
1230 of 88.
You get the big tank, that's small.
You owned it that right.
That's correct. But that's the septic approval for the restaurant, not for the down below area.
They may charge you a pressure down.
That was the approval for that, town of Barron, Nash Planning. The design was, on the official approval.
Our regulations should be the whole law.
Supposed to be in place.
Is that all the paperwork we need from them? Any permits, driveway permits are already existing, so they should need them, should they?
Well, they've got a copy of the original.
They have
And it's right there. Ralph Kelly designed it.
What's that?
Ralph Kelly designed it. This is
Yeah.
their system.
Did you leave any boxes out? We got everything.
I believe we've got everything.
So we need the motion for it, I think, at this point. We need a motion for approval, don't we?
I mean, a lot of it's out of my hands because it's food. But then he's got solar, he showed the down gas.
Dumps it enclosed. I mean, he shows everything pretty good.
Yeah.
We're gonna utilize solar lighting hopefully.
I hope you would close the dumpster.
Oh, yeah.
That man loves it.
So we've heard. There is one there hanging out.
He does.
Somebody's quite the mess over there.
And he, well, the restaurant, the pizzeria just dumps their grease in there. That man loves it.
He does. Oh, Barron Hall.
Word of advice, don't drop anything off your steps. Somebody dropped a bag of couches to my steps, the bear tore right off the house.
Really?
Yeah, I put it back on the other morning. He wanted them chips, and he tore the screws and all, broke them right off.
They want something, they can get it.
Yep.
Any questions, Peter?
I have no question.
Are all these boxes now checked off because they're?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I just,
Motion that the application is complete.
Second.
Made, seconded, all those in favor? Motion carries. Make a motion that the, yeah, this was a site plan, right?
Site plan amendment.
Yeah, site plan amendment. Case number 18-5, site plan amendment. On Goodrich, Jim, Comeau, 674 Route 16B. Tax map 259, lot 01,
This is Route 16, not 16B.
correct, excuse me. Route 16. Make a motion that the site plan amendment be approved with stipulations. State, federal, and local ordinances, ordinances and regulations are followed.
Second.
Made, seconded, any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Go to work, gentlemen.
That was easy. Guess we did that right, huh? Thank you, sir.
We tried to be as thorough as we could.
Appreciate your time.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You do things the right way.
All right, glad to hear that.
Yeah.
You know what you're asking.
Hey, man, we're jumping through hoops and ready to catch fire, like he said.
Good thing comes to people wait a long time.
That's right. Patience is a virtue.
Sorry about the long wait.
Hey, it is what it is. All right, that's what it is. Yep, absolutely.
Sorry
luck,
I had
guys.
to wait so long.
Do we have to sign them?
No.
Oh, okay, under old business. We have a letter from Ambrose Brothers, which we've got to send a letter back to them. To find out whether apparently he wants to reapply. Have a good night. But
Thank you for coming in.
they're gonna make an application. Respectfully request that the original plans be used to comply with section 8.1 and B and C says there have been no changes on the site. We can't do anything without an application.
They can use all the old stuff, but they gotta have an application to use it. Nothing's really changed.
No,
I'm surprised they canceled it.
they haven't canceled it.
I thought they sent us a letter a while ago saying that you weren't gonna use the pit or something. Didn't they?
They sent a letter that they weren't using it.
They weren't using it, they weren't going to, he was gonna close it.
Yeah, he said, yeah, that's right. He said he's gonna close it,
So,
that's what I remember.
but in this
And
letter,
this contradicts everything he said.
Now they're asking to open it back up again. That's why he sent it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to send it.
so,
He officially closed the pit.
no, we didn't.
No. It was only a verbal, nothing in writing.
I thought we accepted it as a closed pit. Well, then the pit's still legally open unless it's licensed.
Correct. But his permit expires
October?
October or September.
Well, then we should tell him he needs to renew his permit.
Yes, to renew his permit. If he doesn't,
Because, so he gets
make a
legal.
motion that we send him a letter explaining that he has to renew his permit and that he has to fill out an application.
And he can legally stink because permit has not expired yet.
And that if he is not going to renew, to please notify us in writing, and we will close the bid.
I second it.
Any discussion? You're looking,
He wants out of here.
I've been up since 4:30. I'm ready, boys. And
He
and
wants out of
ladies.
here.
I beat you, I've been up since 4:15.
Red Sox gotta be about 6:10.
All those in favor? Motion carries. There's two notices of wetlands permit applications, which are just informative. Being no other business to come forward,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all those in favor? Bye.